At exactly 5:47 in the evening, on a calm afternoon in the Persian Gulf, 8 U.S. Navy SEALs cut their engines. Their combatant craft medium fell silent, a 68-foot stealth-designed aluminum vessel drifting just 3 miles from the Iranian coast. Thermal optics swept the horizon, radar signature almost non-existent. The sun hung low in the west, casting golden reflections across the quiet water. 200 meters ahead sat their objective, an aging dhow sitting unusually deep in the water, too deep for a normal fishing vessel. Intelligence reports suggested hidden crates of weapons on board, possibly headed toward Houthi forces in Yemen. The SEAL team had orders to intercept and search the vessel, a routine maritime interdiction. At least that was the expectation. The craft's twin 1,600 horsepower marine diesel engines murmured through waterjet propulsors as the coxswain eased them closer. 4 special warfare combatant craft crewmen held their stations. 8 SEALs performed final gear checks. Night vision devices lowered. Suppressed rifles ready. Radio lines remained open to the USS Michael Murphy, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, maintaining position 12 miles to the east. From its distance, the destroyer's SPY-1D radar painted a perfect picture of the sea. Every surface contact, every aircraft, every movement across the water. From the outside, the SEALs appeared fully protected. What they didn't know was simple. 23 Quds force operators were already waiting. They were scattered across 4 fast attack boats, blending into radar clutter near nearby oil platforms. Experienced veterans of asymmetric naval tactics. Patient, quiet, watching. They understood one critical principle. Advanced technology loses its advantage once distance disappears. At 5:49 p.m., the SEALs pulled alongside the dhow. Grappling hooks landed. 2 operators climbed aboard to secure the vessel. The procedure unfolded smoothly, exactly as rehearsed. Then the afternoon shattered. Gunfire erupted from 3 directions at once. 4 Boghammer-style fast attack boats surged forward, engines roaring to life. Mounted heavy machine guns opened up instantly, tearing across the water. Large-caliber rounds ripped through fiberglass and aluminum. Rocket-propelled grenades streaked in bright arcs across the blue surface. The ambush was precise, clearly planned and rehearsed. On the dow's deck, one SEAL took multiple hits against his body armor, spine and shoulder. He dropped instantly. His swim buddy grabbed him, trying to pull him to cover, but another burst of fire cut across both men. The dhow was never meant to transport anything. It was bait. And the trap had just snapped shut. Back on the combatant craft, chaos immediately transformed into trained reaction. A SWCC gunner swung his M2 Browning .50 caliber machine gun toward the nearest attacker and squeezed the trigger. Heavy rounds ripped across open water at blistering speed. The windshield of the approaching boat shattered. One fighter collapsed, but the others kept firing, their craft zigzagging hard to avoid return fire. Another Boghammer surged in from the stern. Mounted on its deck was a 107mm rocket launcher. 11 tubes fired in rapid sequence, sending unguided rockets screaming through the air. They weren't carefully aimed, just overwhelming volume. 2 splashed into the water short of the target. Another struck the surface just 10 meters from the SEAL craft. The blast wave slammed against the hull. Metal fragments rattled against the aluminum plating. One of the attackers lifted an RPG-7 launcher and fired. The grenade arced through the air and struck the starboard side of the craft. The shaped charge detonated on impact. The hull held together, but 2 SEALs went down, hit by flying fragments. Blood spread across the non-skid deck. The team leader grabbed his radio. "Michael Murphy, this is actual. Taking heavy fire from multiple fast attack boats. 2 down. Request immediate air support." The response came quickly. "Roger, helicopters launching. 4 minutes." 4 minutes. In a close-range fight measured in seconds, 4 minutes feels like an eternity. A third Boghammer approached from the port quarter, carrying something different. From its stern, the crew launched a small surveillance drone, a Mohajer 4 reconnaissance platform modified for target spotting. Its camera feed streamed live to a command boat positioned 2 miles away. Iranian Tactical Command was watching everything in real time, adjusting movements and coordinating the attack. This wasn't chaos. It was a carefully executed plan. The 4th boat stayed farther back, acting as support while its crew fired PKM machine guns and launched grenades toward the SEAL position. But in close quarters, naval combat, advanced systems, and careful planning quickly give way to something much simpler. Who reacts faster? Who holds their position? And who survives long enough for help to arrive? In close combat on open water, the volume of fire can decide everything. Aggression matters, determination matters, And sometimes the willingness to risk everything for the mission becomes the difference between survival and defeat. The SEALs returned fire immediately. Suppressed rifles cracked across the water. M240 machine guns roared to life. Streams of 7.62 millimeter rounds tore into the approaching boats, stitching holes through fiberglass hulls. One Boghamar took several hits straight through its engine compartment. Thick black smoke poured into the air. The boat slowed, but it didn't stop firing. Even damaged, the crew stayed in the fight. A SEAL marksman found a clear angle. One precise shot struck an Iranian gunner in the chest. The man collapsed backward and disappeared into the water. Within 3 seconds, another fighter stepped into his position, grabbed the weapon, and continued firing without hesitation. No panic, no pause, just commitment to the fight. The ambush had lasted barely 90 seconds when a new sound cut through the noise of gunfire. Rotors, heavy, fast, and growing louder. From the eastern horizon, 2 MH-60R Seahawk helicopters appeared, racing toward the battle. Their door gunners were already locked onto targets. Each aircraft carried a 4-person crew, with 2 gunners operating GAU 21.50 caliber machine guns. Under each helicopter's short wing, pylons weighted 4 AGM-114 Hellfire missiles. The lead Seahawk's infrared targeting system scanned the entire area. Every boat appeared clearly in its thermal view. Onboard computers separated friendly forces from hostile targets in seconds. The pilot's voice came through calm and controlled. Tally 4 hostile boats engaging. The GAU-21 fired first. Heavy rounds poured downward at a blistering rate, hammering one of the attacking boats from 400 feet above. The bullets didn't just punch holes, they tore the vessel apart. Fiberglass shattered, metal twisted, equipment scattered across the deck. One gunner was struck directly in the torso. The impact knocked him off the boat, his body disappearing beneath the surface. Another Boghammer attempted to escape, pushing its engine to full throttle toward Iranian territorial waters 4 miles away. The Seahawk pilot tracked it, locked on, then launched a single Hellfire missile. The AGM-114 followed the laser designator from the helicopter, guiding itself precisely toward the target. Its warhead, designed to penetrate armored vehicles, raced forward at more than Mach 1. 9 seconds later, it struck. The missile hit the boat's stern at a perfect angle, penetrating the engine compartment before detonating inside. The explosion erased the rear half of the vessel instantly. Fuel tanks ignited, sending a fireball nearly 60 feet into the air. When the smoke cleared, nothing remained of the boat itself, only burning fuel spreading across the water. 3 Quds force operators had managed to jump from another damaged boat before it sank. They floated in the water, clearly visible. One raised his hands in surrender. A SEAL marksman kept his weapon trained but held fire, following the rules of engagement. But from above, a door gunner in the second Seahawk noticed something the SEALs couldn't see from the surface. The swimmer's other hand was moving toward his vest. The gunner reacted instantly. The heavy round struck the water first, then the man. There was no dramatic blast, just a sudden stillness as the swimmer slipped beneath the surface and didn't return. Meanwhile, the crew of the 4th Boghamar watched the situation collapse around them in seconds. Their ambush had been carefully planned. But now, 2 armed helicopters controlled the sky, and a U.S. destroyer waited over the horizon. The balance of power had changed completely. The boat's coxswain turned sharply and sped toward the nearest oil platform, trying to hide within its radar shadow. It didn't help. The MH-60R didn't rely on radar alone. Its infrared systems easily tracked the boat's engine heat. The pilot adjusted his angle and fired a second Hellfire. The missile skimmed low above the waves before striking the boat near the waterline. It punched through the hull and detonated inside. The explosion tore the vessel apart from within. The hull split violently, folding in half before sinking beneath the surface in less than 20 seconds. 2 men attempted to swim away. One managed to stay afloat, shouting in Farsi as he treaded water. 90 seconds later, SEALs pulled him from the ocean. His wrists were secured behind his back, and a hood was placed over his head. He was the only survivor. At 6:01 p.m., the battle was over. 12 minutes of intense combat had unfolded in an area smaller than 2 football fields. Then the Persian Gulf returned to silence. Calm blue water again, floating debris scattered across the surface, and a dark patch of burning fuel marking where one of the boats had vanished beneath the waves. The SEAL medic moved quickly among the wounded. 2 operators had been hit by shrapnel. Another had a clean through-and-through gunshot wound in his left arm, painful but survivable. The SEAL who had been on the dhow wasn't as fortunate. He had taken several hits. The damage to his spine was severe. He was unconscious, bleeding internally. The medic worked with everything available: pressure bandages, clotting agents, IV fluids, but some injuries go beyond what field treatment can fix. 18 minutes later, the second Seahawk touched down on the flight deck of the USS Michael Murphy, where a medical team was already waiting. Within 30 minutes, the wounded SEAL was in surgery. He survived. But the damage to his spine left him paralyzed from the waist down. 6 months later, at just 28 years old, he was medically retired. 2 combat deployments behind him, then one night in the Persian Gulf changed the rest of his life. Meanwhile, the combatant craft medium made its slow return to the destroyer under its own power. The hull had been punctured in 11 places. The starboard water jet was damaged. Electronics had been hit by fragments from the explosions. The boat would require 3 weeks of repairs, but it had stayed afloat and brought its crew back. The captured Quds Force operator eventually began talking. What he confirmed matched what intelligence officers had already suspected. The ambush had been prepared for 2 full weeks. Iranian radar had been tracking U.S. patrol boats throughout the Gulf, carefully observing patterns. They watched the SEAL teams run interception missions, studied their timing, and searched for weaknesses. That night, they believed they had placed their trap perfectly. What they hadn't considered was a basic principle of American military doctrine: no SEAL team operates alone. That 68-foot boat carried far more power in its communications equipment than the entire attacking force combined. One encrypted transmission brought 2 armed helicopters into the fight. Each helicopter could call in support from the destroyer, and the destroyer could escalate further if necessary. This is the reality many smaller naval forces underestimate. You're not fighting a single boat. You're confronting the entire network behind it, and the network responds quickly. The numbers from the encounter tell their own story. Iran lost 4 fast attack boats, worth roughly $2 million combined. 23 Quds Force operators were lost or captured, including personnel with years of training and experience. Their tactics were revealed, communication methods exposed, and American intelligence gained a live prisoner for questioning. On the American side, the cost looked very different. 2 AGM-114 Hellfire missiles, roughly $70,000 each. About 8,000 rounds of .50 caliber ammunition, around $24,000. 4,000 rounds of 7.62 millimeter ammunition, roughly $12,000 more. In total, about $226,000 in munitions. Had 3 weeks of repair work for the damaged boat and 1 career-ending injury. In exchange, 4 hostile vessels destroyed, more than 20 enemy operators neutralized or captured, valuable intelligence gained, and a clear message delivered to naval commanders across the region, from the Strait of Hormuz to the Gulf of Oman. Target a SEAL team and the response won't come from just 8 men on a boat. It will come from the entire system behind them. But there is a deeper cost that numbers rarely show. The wounded SEAL's lifetime medical care will likely cost the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs several $million. Beyond that are the losses you can't easily measure. His career cut short, the strain on his family, and the impact on his unit when experienced operators are forced to leave the field. Those numbers don't appear in ammunition reports, but they are very real. 6 hours after the incident, Iranian state media released low-quality video footage claiming their naval commandos had successfully pushed back an illegal American operation. The clip showed burning boats on the water. They did not explain whose boats were burning. It was a message aimed at a domestic audience. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away at Naval Special Warfare Group 2 headquarters in Little Creek, Virginia, analysts were already studying every detail of the encounter. The ambush had revealed vulnerabilities. From that point forward, SEAL teams conducting maritime interdiction missions began operating with dedicated aerial surveillance, either MQ-9 Reaper drones or manned aircraft overhead. No exceptions. The combatant craft medium itself also received updates. Additional armor around crew positions, redundant communication systems, and improved defenses against small drones. This is how modern naval warfare evolves. Not only through strategy written in conference rooms, but through lessons learned in real situations. Moments when planning meets reality, and reality forces change. The Persian Gulf returned to its routine the very next night. Different boats, different crews, the same mission. The Iranian coastline still produced potential threats. SEAL teams continued their patrols. Destroyers remained on watch. Helicopters stayed ready on the flight decks, waiting for the call that could come at any moment. But something had changed. 2 weeks later, Iranian fast attack boats stopped approaching U.S. naval vessels. The aggressive maneuvers faded, the high-speed passes and tense encounters disappeared. Somewhere inside Iran's naval command structure, someone had done the math. Trading million-dollar boats and highly trained operators for brief moments of propaganda simply wasn't sustainable. That's deterrence in its purest form, not the prevention of war, but the prevention of the next fight. You don't have to destroy an entire fleet. You only need to make the cost of the next move unacceptable. 4 boats lost in exchange for 2 missiles, 23 operators gone for 1 wounded American. Eventually, the equation speaks for itself. At 7:45 in the evening, the sun touched the western horizon again. By then, the wreckage had already slipped beneath the surface. The blood had washed away, radio traffic had gone quiet. Only orange-lit water stretched to every horizon, calm and empty, as if nothing had happened. As if 12 minutes of violence hadn't just reshaped how future encounters in the region would be approached. Some battles echo through history with headlines and dramatic moments. Others leave quieter echoes, written into doctrine, procedures, and decisions made long after the smoke clears. This was one of those moments. A night when an ambush designed for 8 operators revealed something far larger behind them. A moment when speed, coordination, and layered support turned the situation completely around. What began as a carefully prepared trap became something else entirely. Those who set it discovered that the target wasn't just a small team on a boat. It was an entire network, stretching from the sea surface to aircraft overhead and far beyond the horizon. And that is the lesson written across that stretch of open water. If you found this story interesting, consider subscribing and sharing the video. Your support helps bring more little-known stories from modern military operations to the channel.